Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today we are going to be looking at Holo Taco's Spice Rack collection. This is a 7-piece lineup of these mixed finish formulas in this gorgeous fall color palette. So as always, I will share more of my thoughts at the end after comparisons. For now, let me just show you the swatches. The first shade we have is Your Enthusiasm, which is such a perfect name first of all, but this is described as a smooth metallic polish in a warm dark sage green shade. This had a fantastic formula. It is super pigmented, as you can see on the first coat, very full coverage. Honestly, almost a one coater, but I think there was a little bit of a light spot towards the left side of my nail, and I did notice some sheerness when I did my full hand swatches as well. So this is definitely a solid two-coater, really easy to work with formula, though I would say that because of the metallic finish in this one, it can be a little brush strokey, so you might want to be careful with your brush strokes just to have the smoothest application. But yeah, here it is in two coats in bright indirect lighting, and it's a really gorgeous color for fall. Not what I would think of for sage though, because to me that's more of a blue-green. Then we have Copper Coated, which is a smooth and lustrous chrome polish in a warm copper shade. So I thought it was interesting that this one was described as chrome while the last shade was a metallic, because they pretty much feel the same to me. I guess maybe this one wasn't as brush strokey, but I could still kind of see it, so I'm not sure if this is supposed to be a one coater like the other one coat chromes, but I found that this one was a tiny bit more sheer compared to the last shade, at least on the first coat, but it is a solid two coater. It is just still really highly pigmented, really full coverage, and like I mentioned, due to the brush strokiness, you want to be careful with your application just to make sure they're as smooth as possible. No surprise, I love this color. I just love coppery oranges, especially for fall. The magnetic in the collection is called Brûlée Me Away, and this is described as a warm brown base with a scattered hollow and a gold magnetic pull. This one had a really nice formula. It's a little bit on the jelly leaning side, so you can see some sheerness on that first coat, but at the same time it is very richly pigmented, so I would say that this is another solid two-coater, but I guess depending on your application, you might need a third coat if your nails are longer or if you just prefer doing much thinner coats. The jelly leaning base really let this one magnetize super easily. As you can see, I have the cat eye on my live swatch, but for my full hand swatch, I have the glass bead on my pointer, velvet on my middle, cat eye again on my ring, and unmagnetized on my pinky. So even though this is a brown based polish, the gold magnetic shimmer really is super strong in this one, so it does have a very strong yellow color overall. I guess if you did a third coat of this one, it would deepen that brown base even more for slightly more contrast. Next we have Maple Sugar Glaze, which is described as a warm syrup brown colored jelly with gold iridescent shimmer and a gold reflective glitter. I actually didn't realize that this had a gold reflective until just now, so apologies, I don't have this one under flash, but as you can see, it's already decently packed with those gold iridescent microflakes or large particle shimmer. It's not densely packed like other shimmers are, but it still provides a really beautiful sparkle, especially in contrast to that warm brown base, which as you saw is a little bit on the sheer side because it is described as a jelly leaning base, but I found that I had really nice coverage on the two coats, probably because this is a slightly darker color and there's just a lot of shimmer in here that it helps obscure the nail line. So even on my full hand swatch, the two coats I feel like looks really good and passable, like you can barely see any nail line, maybe if you are looking close enough. And similar to the last shade, I would imagine doing a third coat would just deepen that brown color even more. I think this is another favorite of mine. You know that I love browns. Next up we have Pink Himalayan Salt, which is described as a light, warm pink jelly with silver reflective glitter and a silver micro hollow. So I personally wouldn't agree with calling this a light pink. I think this is definitely a much more mid-tone, like medium shade of pink, and it definitely is very, very warm. I feel like it has this slight coral kind of undertone to it, which I don't know if I really love. I feel like this is slightly unflattering on me, at least with my longer nails. I don't think they're particularly stained at the moment, at least not badly stained like they used to be, but I feel like this shade of pink over the tips of my nail just doesn't look that nice, at least if you leave it in the 2 coats like you saw in my live swatch and here in my full hand swatch. Of course, doing a 3rd coat will intensify or even out the color a little bit more, and it'll make it look a little closer to what you see in the bottle, but personally I still find it to be a little too dark or maybe just muted, so I wish it was a little bit more pink, but it still works for the collection. But yeah, sadly this was one that I was slightly let down by, which just hurts because I love pink. The next shade we have is Cast Iron, and this is described as a gunmetal metallic with smooth, shiny flakes and a scattered holo. I feel like this almost has the same visual texture of a crushed holo, or just a large shimmer particle, or a super tiny microflake. And even though this one is also a metallic like some of the other polishes, it's definitely a much more sheer one compared to the first 2, for example, and obviously not nearly as brushstrokey at all. So it had a really nice, easy to build up formula, fully opaque in 2 coats. And yeah, I just really love this one. It's just such a cool, dark shade. I love the visual texture again that it has, but it's not textured at all. It is completely smooth. If anything, I did notice the formula on this one was slightly on the thicker side. Not that it was difficult to work with at all, but I could just see myself adding some thinner to this one in the future. Also, I'm not sure if it was just like my lighting in the previous clip, but I feel like there was almost this flash of a warm yellow kind of color. Like the flakes didn't read as a cool icy silver. And rounding out the collection is Sugar Dust Taco, which is described as a sparkling topper with an orange to yellow shifting iridescent micro glitter, as well as a crushed and scattered holo. As you can see, this is densely packed. There is so much of those little glitter particles in just the first coat alone, and it is so pretty. I just love how sparkly this one was. I also love the addition of that golden kind of iridescent glitter in here. Though to my naked eye, I didn't really pick up that it was iridescent or color shifty. It just kind of looked like a pale gold metallic sort of flake, but I still loved it because it just provided this extra little detail on top of the combination of holo sparkle in here, which I know is like really hard to see. I feel like under a macro lens, you might be able to appreciate it more, but it is just a super sparkly topper, really pretty overall. And here is my full hand swatch collage of the Spice Rack collection, again shown in 2 coats each, except for the topper, which is 1 coat. And yeah, this is a stunning lineup, so rich and cozy. Now for comparisons, we're starting with Your Enthusiasm and looking at it next to Peridon't Bother Me and ILNP's Frankie, which are the closest shades that I have to Your Enthusiasm, being these yellowy green sort of metallics. But as you can see, Peridon't Bother Me and Frankie are a little bit more speckly in their shimmer finishes. They don't have that liquid metal look as Your Enthusiasm. And in a similar vein, here is Mooncat's Serpents of Eden, which is another speckly shimmer kind of finish, so it doesn't have that super finely milled liquid metal look. And the green shimmer is also a little bit less yellow. And while this is obviously a very different finish, I just thought the color of Your Enthusiasm was kind of similar to Cirque Peridot if you happen to have that one, just for color reference. Next for copper coated, here it is next to I'm Rover It and Zyler Cat Eye. I would say both of these are on opposite ends of the spectrum, where I'm Rover It is much more red leaning. Zyler leans a little bit more pale gold in the shimmer. It is a magnetic, but you know, leaving it unmagnetized makes it look metallic. So visually they are more similar, but very different colors. And here is Mooncat's Whiskey Sunrise and Crack's Granny Walk, which I think were the closest that I had to these coppery metallic kind of shades, but both the Mooncat and Cracked are a little bit more red leaning, or maybe like burnt orange sort of shades, so they're just a bit darker compared to copper coated, so not quite dupes. Up next for Brûlée Me Away, I first wanted to show this next to Fairy Tale, which was Holo Taco's first brown magnetic. In the bottle, I feel like they almost have a similar vibe, but on the nail you can definitely see a clear difference where Fairy Tale is much more pigmented, a deeper brown base with almost a pale copper shimmer. Some other shades I thought were closer were Bottle Service and No Smoking. If anything, I could see Brûlée Me Away being like a combination of these two, because leaving it unmagnetized, the gold shimmer again is very overpowering, so it kind of has a similar look to Bottle Service, just without the hollow sparkle, while No Smoking just has that dingier sort of greenish brown base underneath. I figured I could also show this next to Apocalypse's AstroNOT from their Last Hail Mary collection, because it had a similar gold kind of copper magnetic shimmer, but that one's in a jelly black base, so it is a bit darker and somehow more sheer. And for another brown coppery magnetic, I pulled out ILNP's Fawn, but that one I think is a little lighter, like the base is more orangey. And then I also swapped out the Apocalypse with the Last Hail Mary, which has a stronger gold color shimmer, but that's in an even deeper black base. And here is Brûlée Me Away next to a swatch stick of Mooncat's Taipan Venom from their Deadly by Nature collection. That one was described as having a brown base with a gold magnetic shimmer, but there are also these copper metallic flakes in the background, as well as this subtle green shimmer, so it kind of makes the base a little green-brown. And here is Brûlée Me Away next to Maple Sugar Glaze. At this point, I had already done a Skittle for these, so I'm showing them on my two fingers as opposed to right next to each other. But yeah, depending on the angle in the bottle, they look pretty similar because again, maple sugar has that really strong gold shimmer, but on the nail you get way more of that warm syrup brown base. So I thought I could show Maple Sugar Glaze next to Topaz Tears, which is another brown sort of base with these gold shimmers, but it also has these iridescent flakes in there. And the visual look and color of Maple Sugar also reminded me of ILNP's Autumn, but that one has a warmer, almost orangey leaning brown base, or maybe it just looks that way because it has a gold and red micro shimmer. So for just the gold, I then pulled out ILNP's Hayride, which as you can see has a very light, more orangey leaning base. So I figured if I layered this over a brown cream like Brownie Points, I might be able to recreate it, but Brownie Points was a little too dark. Though if you look at my cuticle area from where I did the first coat, I feel like the color is almost similar, so maybe doing one coat of each would be closer. Then for Pink Himalayan Salt, I thought the color of this was going to be closest to Low-Key Blushing, even though that one's obviously a different formula being a cream, but you can just see such a big difference on the nail with how much warmer Pink Himalayan Salt is compared to how pink Low-Key Blushing is. And for reference, I also included Bury Me in Holo, which is a crushed hollow. And of course, I also have to show this next to ILNP's Rosalie from their Vineyard collection, which is a dusty, warm rose jelly base with this holographic shredded flake. So these are definitely the closest in terms of their finish and color, but they're just slightly off where they're not exact dupes. ILNP's flake is a little bit larger compared to how dainty and fine the one in Holo Taco is, and not to mention Holo Taco has a reflective glitter, but the bigger difference for me honestly is just the color, where Rosalie has that more flattering warm rose shade, while the Holo Taco is just a bit warmer, more orangey coral in its undertone, which I just personally don't think is as flattering, at least on me. Then for Cirque jellies, I thought Rosewood and Hearth jelly were the closest, but they're kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum, where Rosewood is a little bit deeper and warmer, while Hearth is a little bit brighter and almost has this smoked salmon kind of color. I think it is closer, at least compared to Rosewood, but pink Himalayan salt just has that muted sort of vibe to it. And also for fun, I added Rosé All Day, which is an iridescent sort of a topper, just to recreate that sparkly vibe. It probably could have used a second coat though. Then for cast iron, I pulled out Mooncat's The Silent Scream and Apparition, which are both black-based magnetics, but leaving them unmagnetized kind of looks like a metallic sort of finish. But The Silent Scream is a lot smoother, having that liquid metal look. Apparition is slightly closer, but the shimmer particle is just a lot larger in cast iron. So then I pulled out Olive Ave's Night Court from a previous winter collection and Detour's Batty Night from Little Lacquer Box. I thought the finish of Night Court was going to be similar, and it kind of is, being like a speckly shimmer, but the color is obviously way off, being a more blue-toned gray. So I think Batty Night is definitely the closer one, especially in terms of that gunmetal kind of color, but it has a slightly smaller shimmer. And here is cast iron next to Nightlife, which was the dark gray crushed hollow from last year's Renaissance collection. Hopefully you can see what I mean when I mention cast iron having almost this pale yellow shimmer color. It just looks slightly more warm. And finally, for Sugar Dust Taco, I'm showing it next to Mooncat's Moondust, which is basically your run-of-the-mill scattered hollow topper, as well as Apocalypse's Galaxy, which also has that dainty scattered hollow, but there is also a slightly more varied hollow fleck in there as well, though it's not as large as what you see in Holo Taco. So both the Mooncat and Apocalypse look a little sparse in comparison. Holo Taco, again, is just very densely packed, and it also has that gold or yellow kind of iridescent shimmer, so I added a coat of Cirque's Nectar, which I think gives a similar visual look, but maybe it would be better to do Nectar first and then the hollow on top. And that wraps up my swatches and comparisons of Holo Taco's Spice Rack collection. These are available now and they are not limited edition, so if you are interested in checking them out, I will have Holo Taco's website linked down below. But yeah, I would love to hear what you think about these because I really love them. This color palette is just so chef's kiss, no pun intended. I feel like I was just talking about not being ready for fall collections just yet, but as each one comes out, I get more and more excited, and I feel like this one is so strong. It's just such a beautiful range of shades in these fantastic formulas across the board as well. So I really feel like there is something for everybody. I guess unless you are a purple or blue lover, but if that's you, I feel like you've been eating good this whole year. So yeah, I'm overall just really pleased with how warm and cozy these shades are. But I'd love to hear your thoughts down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!